Hey everyone, it's Raphael here, and I'm going to be talking about Stranger Things Season 4, and we're going to be focusing mostly on the final episode, aka the finale, and there are going to be a lot of spoilers past this point for sure, so if you haven't yet seen the episode, because it was only released yesterday, so I'm sure a lot of people have not yet seen the episode, so just as a warning, I'm going to add a spoiler alert right here. So past this point, we're going to be talking and kind of diving deep into the last episode and a lot of the plot points that occurred. All right. Now, as for the episode itself, before I dive into the plot, there were a lot of good things in this episode. That's one thing I'll say. A lot of good moments, but at the same time, there were also a lot of weak moments, which I felt that the episode could have done better at. But all in all, this episode was good, although it's not perfect. Now, this episode stands at a staggering 2 hours and 22 plus minutes long, so it's pretty much like you can treat this episode like a movie as well if it's your first time watching it. Now, let's go ahead and first talk about the Russian storyline, because I know looking at the Stranger Things 4 discussion thread on Reddit, I kind of saw that a lot of people felt that the Russian storyline, the one with Hopper, Joyce, Mari, and then we had Yuri, and there was the other dude's name which I forgot, but he was there to help out as well. He kind of was a Hopper's cellmate in one episode, so you know who I'm talking about. But that group, that entire storyline was probably my favorite one, and then with Steve, Robin, and Nancy's storyline being second. Now, I know many people thought that the Russian storyline dragged on and on, but I actually enjoyed watching that one the most, because it really dived deeper into Hopper's past. Like they kind of emphasized this in episode 7, right before Hopper reunites with Joyce. So that all paid off satisfyingly in episode 9 when they finally, spoiler alert, they finally kissed at last, and they were also able to progress the plot a lot in their own end of the story. Like they were able to kill a lot of the demo dogs that were, Hopper in that middle of the episode he was used as bait basically, and then I guess that's that. Joyce was very Joyce has PTSD after what happened with her previous boyfriend Bob, so it's understandable why she was obviously not gonna agree to this plan. Now, like I said before, it's spoiler alert, so I will say that there is no deaths in the Russian storyline. I actually thought at one point that Hopper was gonna die when the demo dog kind of got him down there and was about to open his mouth, like what happened with Bob, for example, but thankfully, Joyce did get there in time and save the day, and therefore, the rest of the crew was able to survive. And now, obviously, there were a couple of deaths in this episode, but now let's go and talk about the deaths, because when it comes to this show having long-term consequences, they kind of almost did this with Max later on, when there's a part when Eleven is kind of like she's been trapped by Vecna's vines, so she can't really save Max at this point. And then there was a time when Henry Krill was about to kill Max right there. Henry's Vecna, obviously, as you can tell from episode 7. So there was a time when Max was about to die, and she actually did die, but then Eleven kind of did some she used her abilities to kind of restart her heartbeat. I think that's what I got from that scene, but I was kind of like, I don't know what to feel about that part, because while I am very happy that Max did survive, but at the same time it kind of feels like a double-edged sword, because one of the major complaints of the show as a whole, not just this season, but the show as a whole, is not really having permanent deaths in the main cast. Like, for example, and we know Billy died in season 3, and that was a long-term death. He's not coming back, but he wasn't really part of the main cast overall, so it's not really like what most people were wanting to see was actual stakes for the main cast, because it kind of feels like, they're put on death's door, but we kind of know that they'll survive, because, we have another season coming up, and most of them still have to survive for the grand finale. But for the scene with Max, I was actually hoping, well, okay, I know it kind of sounds morbid, because I kind of says I'm hoping for a character to die, but I mean, like I said, it's mixed. I'm glad she survived, because I do like Max as a character, but at the same time, I was hoping that they would deliver long-term consequence to one of the main cast, like the main crew. But yeah, I guess they kind of left her fate vague in this season. Like, according to Lucas at the hospital scene near the end of the episode, Max is like, was clinically pronounced dead, but then apparently her heart started up again, which we all know it's by 11, but no, the doctors were obviously baffled by it, as Lucas explains to the rest of the crew. And I guess they're kind of doing it like the last season when Hopper, when most of us knew Hopper was alive, but they still kind of left this ending vague. Now, this time they're kind of doing it to Max, where they're leaving us with a cliffhanger whether Max will make it to season 5 or if they'll subvert expectations and actually kill her off. What happened with Vecna. So that would be kind of ballsy move, and I would actually kind of give the writers kudos for doing that. But yeah, now as for the actual deaths in this, so Dr. Brenner, Dr. Brenner from season 1, yep, he's dead in episode 8, and I was actually hit hard by this. I mean, I know Brenner was, he's not a good person, and he is very abusive, but he did care for 11 in his own twisted way, so I guess that did kind of hit me a little bit. Now, I didn't cry on his death, but I did kind of feel sympathy a little bit. I know it's kind of weird to say that, knowing what he did, but I guess that's power of good acting. Like, that scene was acted very well, and how he was trying to get 11 to understand why he did it in typical abuser fashion, but then 11 kind of just says, goodbye, instead of kind of saying that she understands like he wanted her to say. And yeah, that was just a really powerful scene. And so that's the first death. That's Brenner's death right there. Then we had Eddie dying as well, which I kind of saw that coming, because Eddie's not like, he's not like part of the main cast since season 1, so he's a new character. And if this show is continuing until season 5, which I think season 5 might be the last one, that's what I've heard. Well, I don't know if that's true, but that's what I've heard around the internet. But if season 5 will be the last one, then if they want to have all the kids from season 1 and season 2, like all the important like cast members sticking around for the grand finale of the show, then it makes sense that if they want to add the so-called stakes, they would probably kill off the overall unimportant characters, the relatively unimportant ones. Like, I know Eddie is pretty cool, but in the grand scheme of things, they kind of had to fill a quota and just kill one of the characters, so they'll do it with Eddie because, he was introduced in season 4, and, I mean, yeah, he's a cool character, but still, I kind of saw his death coming. And then there's a scene where he played Metallica, which was pretty cool. I was hoping they would also play Black Sabbath. That would have made that scene even better, but, I mean, yeah, we can take Metallica, that's pretty cool as well. I mean, I like both bands anyway, but yeah. So that was a cool scene, which we finally knew. Like, I saw that scene in the trailer somewhere, so I knew that it'd be Volume 2 when I didn't see that at all in Volume 1. I knew it'd be sometime in Episode 8 or 9. And yeah, it was a cool way to just distract the bad. So that part was kind of fan service for metal fans, and it also served in furthering the plot. So that's kind of an example of fan service done right. But now, there are some weird moments, like let's say, there's the part when Eddie is, fending off the bats, and he kind of survives way too long, where I was thinking, how are they not, like, I mean, like, he definitely was killed after that, but I mean, like, it was way too long in my opinion. Like, the bats were outnumbering him, they were swarming him, so he should have died much quicker than what actually happened. Like, it took way too long for him to die. So, I mean, it's not like bad enough to hurt the episode, but it's just one thing I found weird, and I wanted to mention it here. Just, it's a minor thing anyway, but yeah. Now, as far as the Mike team, so that's Mike, Jonathan, Will, and 11, and then we had Jonathan's friend over there as well. He was they had to, how to fight Vecna, Henry Krill. 11 had to kind of get into Max's head to kind of defend her, because Vecna is getting in her head as well. That entire storyline, like, it actually dragged on. I wasn't really interested in that entire crew until this episode. Like, finally there was something interesting from that crew in this episode, and I was actually engrossed in it. But I mean, I did kind of find the power of love speech that Mike was giving to 11. I know they kind of set this up when Will says that Mike is the heart of the gang, and that's what keeps them all together. Mike is what glues them together, but I don't know. I mean, I kind of still felt like that was kind of cliche in my opinion. Maybe you might have loved it, but in my opinion, I think that was a bit cliche for my taste. But then again, this show does some cliche stuff on purpose, so I don't know whether they were intending it to be that way. But yeah, overall though, that scene did not hit as hard as I was expecting it to. But yeah, now as for Vecna himself, the villain, well, finally, like, it felt more of a threat this time around. Like, in the previous, like, volume, while Vecna is really cool looking and has a bunch of, he has a creepy atmosphere around him, but at the same time, like, let's take the Dear Billy episode. So that's episode 4 when Max escapes Vecna, narrowly escapes her when they play, music. They play her favorite song, and then she's able to kind of like escape Vecna's trap at that time. Well, that was kind of a double-edged sword, because it kind of like it kind of gave away that the weakness is simply just to, I don't know, play your favorite song. I didn't know really how to feel about that, because while that scene was incredibly well done, like the slow motion, the soundtracks, the visuals was all well done, but at the same time it kind of hurt. Initially it hurt Vecna overall, like in regarding to the character being intimidating. It kind of hurt that character, because I was just thinking, that was a bit way too easy in my opinion to get her out of there, like that out of that mental hellscape. That's how they did it. And then Max as well falling from that height, I was surprised she didn't break her legs from that height, but this show does a bunch of like unrealistic things anyway, so that's really just minor in comparison. But yeah, I just wanted to point that out as well. They definitely stepped it up in this episode when when he actually injured Max, like gravely injured Max this time around. Though it seems like the Duffer Brothers didn't really have either the guts to go all the way to kill her, but let's see if they have bigger plans for her in Season 5, or if they just simply didn't want to kill up the major characters and simply stuck around with killing Brenner, and then Eddie, and then, yeah, let's see who else died. Chrissy was a minor character, but she's died too. Well, now, okay, since we're talking about Chrissy, who died in Episode 1, well, let's talk about the basketball crew storyline. So that's Jason, who's, kind of, he throughout the entire season, he thinks that Eddie is the the cult leader of Hellfire, and that he's behind all the murders that Vecna is committing. Well, yeah, it was, I guess, look, here's the thing, it's easy to hate his character, because, obviously we know the truth, and Jason is being annoying, but if we look at it from his perspective, well, he's not really aware of the upside-down shenanigans like our characters are, and like the audience are, so it's like you can kind of, give him that kind of leeway that he is just simply, he's trying to kind of like avenge his dead girlfriend, obviously, and he thinks that Eddie is the one behind it because he thinks Eddie's a freak, right? But obviously, though, to us as a viewer, well, he was quite an annoying character, and his death as well, when the earth was splitting open, that was quite satisfying. Like, probably could have been longer than that, but we'll take what we can get. So yeah, I guess like this really depends if you like his character or not, depending on if you see where he's coming from. But still, I mean, like, overall, he's a one and done character, so he's done. We don't have to anymore deal with that storyline, that filler storyline. Like, he didn't really matter overall to the main plot, aside from giving us kind of like a perspective on how an outsider gets way too involved without really knowing how, without really having any context. So I guess that's one way you can look at his storyline. Now, the actor of Jason did a good job, because he made most of the audience hate him. Like, I could tell when I was looking at reviews, I was specifically focusing on what people thought about Jason as a character, and many found him annoying. So I guess that's mission accomplished. Actor did a good job, and also the writers did a good job for his storyline. But I mean, I know some people could have thought that was filler and that they dedicated too much screen time to Jason, but I mean, it is what it is, really. I mean, in my opinion, I thought I was so on that. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it either, so I'll leave it at that. Yeah, so let's talk about that. Overall, this season compared to Season 3, well, so Season 3 was definitely like faster paced. Like, Season 4 definitely had to set up a lot of things, and then it all culminated in the last like 3 couple episodes. Like, episode 1 of Season 4 was my least favorite of all the 9 episodes in this season. Like, I mean, like, I wasn't really interested in the 11 being bullied storyline overall, but I mean, it does show her struggling to adjust to normal life, so I guess that's important because season 3 left off with 11 going away with, you know, Will and Joyce after what happened with Hopper. So yeah, it seems like this is when we get the next cliffhanger, and now everyone's gonna be speculating the next few months whether Max is gonna be alive or not, just like just like 3 years ago when everyone was suspecting if Hopper was dead or alive. So that's this season's cliffhanger. Well, then we get the last scene in this episode with, dear God, that final like 20 minutes was dragging on. Like I mean, it was showing them volunteering and then showing all the characters reuniting, and then it kind of showed, according to Will, Vecna is hurt but still alive, and then we kind of see the big monster at the end and how the Earth is kind of like being affected like by it now. So I guess we have something set up for the rest of season 5, which I guess I'll make another review on that as well when we finish watching that, like maybe sometime next year or 2 years later. I'll definitely make another video about that. So the final episode as well, like when it comes to the pacing, they did pretty good in the pacing on the last episode as well. But honestly though, I actually preferred episode 8 more than episode 9. Like the entire like Brenner storyline, it did initially drag on in volume 1, but this episode kind of it concluded that storyline in a beautiful way, as I explained earlier in the video, where I said that that, you know, Brenner's death and then him trying to like explain his himself to 11, even though his methods were very abusive, but still, like, that scene hit because of good acting and good soundtrack. Like, that was a great one. And then Dr. Owens as well. Well, he's a good character. I like him. He was kind of, he's less strict on 11 than Brenner was, that's for sure. Now, Brenner was right though. I mean, when 11 was facing Vecna, she was getting stomped in that fight. Like, I mean, Brenner was kind of warning her that she wasn't able to, you know, she wouldn't be able to stand up to number 1 if he got way more powerful since the last time they had a skirmish. So yeah. Now, so let's go ahead and rate the episode. So for volume 2, episode 8 was definitely a 9 out of 10. That was a good episode. The final episode was probably like a 6 or a 7 out of 10. Like I said before, I preferred the 8th episode to the 9th episode. But yeah, so what else was I gonna say? So as for Vecna, like I said, he's more intimidating in this episode, in this volume, than he was in the previous volume. That's for sure. So they stepped up his fear factor, and we get like a lot of context as well for the rest of the show, that Vecna was behind pretty much everything that transpired in the last 3 seasons. So that was a good addition as well. So yeah, Stranger Things season 4. Well, that was I definitely recommend you watch it. But like, just be warned, there were a lot of cringe moments as well, in addition to a lot of good moments. So it's just like season 3, where it's kind of a mix between both. That's what I would say about season 4. Yeah, thank you very much for sticking around if you listened to the entire review. Comment down below what you thought about this season, and if I missed anything that you wanted me to talk about. Let's see if I missed anything. Well, I did say, I think I said pretty much everything I wanted to say, actually. So yeah, that's it for this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Raphael out.